Day 1 of restarting my Leetcode 75 challenge. I'm going to pick TypeScript as my language and I'm going to solve one problem every day, and I'm going to add any kind of nuances I find so that in future if I have any kind of doubts I'm going to be able to go through this and recollect whatever I know. And yeah, so the first problem is always going to be merge string alternatively. You are given two strings, word 1 and word 2. Merge the strings by adding letters in alternating order, starting with word 1. If a string is longer than the other, append the additional letters onto the end of the merged string, or return the merged string. Got it? So here they're taking ABC, PQR, AP, BQ, CR, AB, PQRS, AB, BQRS. Got it? So basically, even when the words are not there, it's just going to continue adding it in a sequence. Makes sense. So, from what I can gather from this is usually how they declare variables in TypeScript is adding a colon and mentioning the type of it, and this string signifies the return type of the function. So it's expecting a string with a return type. Got it? So let me create a variable and let it be of type string, and I'm going to assign a default value. Now let's run a for loop, but before for loop, so my method of achieving this is I'll run a simple for loop and I'll let JavaScript handle both the boundary values and check the existence whether that specific character exists in a specific word. So basically, let me just do it in a paint. The logic that I'm thinking of is I'll pick the longest word and I'm going to loop through it continuously. So when I'm looping through it continuously, a single for loop, I can access both word 1 and word 2. So just with a single loop only I will be able to access both this and this. Every time when it's 1 I'll be accessing this value and this value. When it's 2 I'll be accessing this and this. When it's 3 I'll be accessing this and this. And by default, if a specific value is not accessed in JavaScript, it will always return as undefined. So here it's going to return undefined and our if check is going to handle it, and here it's going to have a value, so it's going to append. So I think this will work fine. Let's check it out. So for let I, is it int or number? Let us see. Number to 0, but first we need to get max one thing I have noticed is every time I use math.max, it has hit the performance in a negative manner. So I'll try using a ternary condition here. just test it out. I have a gut feeling that it's gonna work. Well, let's accept it. So we got that going on for us, which is nice. Let's submit this. Oof, the runtime. The runtime hurts me. It hurts my soul. Let me check it out if I use TH X. Ideally, this should not beat the runtime. I have no idea how it's working, but fine. Apparently, math.max is working better than a ternary condition. I'll take it. So, there are some nuances that I noticed that I feel like it's necessary for me to log it, right? Uh, the first nuance is say that every string in JavaScript is treated as an array. So let me say let a equals to, so I can access the specific array by using index of say index of 1. So it's getting the z. So in JavaScript the index starts from 0 to n minus 1. So if I want to access the first element, it's going to be of 0, but I don't have the Java array functions like push or splice. So if I try to do a dot push, see, it will throw me an error saying a dot push is not a function, but it won't throw me an error if I do something like this. So by this I've replaced s with a. So if I try to print a, it should not return a z, that it should print s z z. The reason it's happening is string is immutable. No matter what you try to do, you cannot modify it. And JavaScript behind the under the hood, it's silently handling this error and not throwing an error. But how will you know an error is taking place? That's when people use strict mode, and then they do let me redeclare another variable. A is equal b c equals to, now I try to access c of 1, it is r, let me go with c of 0 only, which is a. Now here I try to assign a. Okay, I have to put it all in a single line only. C of 0 equals to c. Okay, redeclaration, yeah, because of using strict. Let's go with d. If you see here, it's returning a read-only error, and it's throwing the redeclaration error because c has already been declared. So by default what happens is, and when you're not using use strict, right, you can redeclare the same thing many times and you can overwrite it. But when you use strict, it prevents redeclaration of certain variables. It also prevents these kind of under the hood errors, error handling that JavaScript does. Even though here when we are assigning this variable, the variable is not being updated, some people in the code, if it's written something like this, we are under an assumption that it's actually being updated if we do not know that string is immutable. But using useStrict, it's gonna help us out in debugging and making it in a handling it in a much more cleaner manner. So nice, I learned two new things. Use strict, easy for debugging and making things much more simpler with our lives. And string is immutable. String behaves as an array. And math.max apparently is supposed to be pretty good. And a quick rundown of this code. I think it's a very simple code. I don't think there is much for me to learn from this. So yeah, I could have added a semicolon here, but hey, it doesn't matter. Yeah, that's pretty good. I think day one seems it went pretty swimmingly. Looking forward to day two.